Hello everyone and welcome to Lavender Cottage. This is going to be one of our standard podcast episodes, so where we share finished objects, things that we're working on and plans for any future projects. So my name is Anna.
I'm Pia.
And we are twin sisters from Melbourne or Naarm in Australia, and we a bit sort of multi-crafty, particularly at the moment. I mostly do knitting, but also dabble in a bit of crochet, a little bit of weaving, recently been trying some spinning, and Pia does a mix of knitting and sewing predominantly, would you say?
At the moment, yes.
Yeah.
But I also sometimes do other non-fibre art stuff like
Yeah.
paper craft and also a bit of pottery, but I don't have any of that today.
Yes, but we do have a fair variety, I think, of mostly knitting and sewing, also with a bit of crochet, a bit of spinning today as well.
Yeah.
So before we get into the episode, I would first like to acknowledge that we're recording this video on the lands of the Wurundjeri people of the Kulin nation and extend our respect to their elders past, present and emerging, as well as any Indigenous or Aboriginal or Torres Strait Islander people who are watching this video today. So we're going to start this video, or this podcast, which is number 24, by the way, actually, with the segment that we don't often have, which is a what I'm wearing segment. I often knit socks, so obviously I wouldn't want to hold my foot up in front of the camera.
Yes.
But I have been knitting a few more garments this year, and the same as Pia as well.
Yes,
so
I have done. So this is a top that I finished recently. If you watch our previous episode, you would have seen that I was almost finished this, and I was kind of a bit on the fence about whether I liked it or not. But so I did decide to just finish it and block it and see how it turned out. So the pattern is called the Perfect Knitted T-shirt by Kaitlin Barthold, which you can get as a free pattern off her blog, or you can purchase it on Ravelry. And it's in the Hobbi Friends Cotton Linen yarn. It's the name of the yarn. That yarn has actually been discontinued though. But so I held two strands together. If you can see, it's kind of this sort of mild pink and purple kind of effect. So that was actually one strand of pink and one strand of purple. But the yarn itself is also kind of I don't know if you would say it's like plied, like it's kind of that barber poling kind of look of a sort of pastel and then a more saturated version of the colour kind of twisted together.
Okay.
So I'm quite happy with the like the sort of colour. Like I really like this sort of combination of the pink and purple. I think the main thing that I was concerned about the pattern when I was knitting it was the amount of fabric in the sleeves, whether they're a bit sort of like bulky and kind of stuck out a bit. But I think like since I've blocked it, I guess because this yarn did have some linen in it, that when I was knitting it, it was kind of felt kind of stiff, and I guess it's like softened up a bit. And I think like over time that should soften up
Linen,
more.
I think, just basically gets softer and softer with time.
Yeah, so that it will have like more of a drape to the sleeve. So I think I'm going to keep this as it is. Like I'm not going to unravel it and knit a different pattern. I'm happy to keep that as it is. So yeah, that's my latest knitting finished object, and also what I'm wearing.
Nice. I am wearing my long Paddock, which also I had as a whip in our last podcast episode, because I think our last episode was a fair while ago. So this, I was knitting, it's a pattern by Vera Marcu, and it was part of the Bendigo project for this year, which was a group of patterns that were released by 4 different designers that all featured stripes in some way, and the idea was to knit one or all or as many of the patterns as you liked, and wear them at the Bendigo Sheep and Wool show. And so all of them featured stripes in some way. So this pattern, obviously the stripes not coming from the colour, rather from the texture. So you do sort of like ribbing, and then you also have this section here that I call horizontal ribbing, but it's not actually ribbing. Like you're doing rows of sort of stockinette and reverse stockinette to get these sort of horizontal effect. So yeah, I did end up finishing it in time to wear to Bendigo. I finished it about a week before, so which I really did need because it was so cold then. So it kind of did take that full week to block. And the yarn I used for this is Bendigo Woollen Mills. It was called their Mosaic 8 ply. So it was one of their, I think basically every year they have a limited edition DK weight yarn, and this was the one from I think not last year, but the year before. I can't quite remember. And the colourway is called Dark Pine. And I talked quite extensively, I think, in our last episode and also some of my crafty moments vlogs about how I was concerned about my yarn choice because the pattern kind of recommends that you shouldn't use a wool, pure wool yarn because it's got too much, it's too springy. Like you need something that doesn't have as much memory because then like they're basically this half of the sweater and this half have a different kind of gauge. So yeah, to mitigate that, you need something that when you block it, it's not going to kind of work its way back into that shape. I will say it does a little bit, like when I'm wearing it, I do notice that maybe the side with the horizontal stripes does creep up a little bit, but then I just pull it back down and it's fine. Like it's not enough that I think, like if I was to make this pattern again in the future, which I might, because I do quite like I think this is quite effective. I would make a better choice in a future iteration of this project, but it doesn't bother me enough that I think, oh, this is unwearable and I'm going to frog this and use the yarn for something else. So I think overall I end up being happy with it. And I did they had at Bendigo on the Saturday, they had everyone who, well, maybe there were people who didn't come, but people who wanted to could all congregate in one spot at a particular time, and then they took some
like a group
group photos, and they took a group photo of like the whole group of everyone who did anything for the Bendigo project, and then they did for each individual pattern. So I think I didn't sort of specifically count, but I think maybe there were about 20 people or so who made the long paddock. So yeah, that was that is my what I'm wearing. So I think now we will move into our normal sections of our FOs, whips and plants.
Okay, so this is our first regular segment, which is called Hot Off the Hooks, and that refers to any finished objects that, so any of our projects we've completed recently.
Yes.
You have a couple of finished objects to get us started?
Yes, so one is actually a new craft. So I went last weekend? Yes. To a workshop that was hosted by the Collingwood Country Women's Association, and it was held at the Collingwood Children's Farm, and it was a learn to spin workshop. So the workshop was not taught by the CWA. They were teachers.
Just kind of hosted it.
Yeah, they hosted it. The teachers were from the Spinners and Weavers Guild, and it was awesome. Like the CWA, like they put on this huge morning tea for us. I actually thought like, oh, maybe they might do a bit of a fundraiser and they'll have like a bake sale, so like we would buy stuff. But it was all provided for free. The cakes were really yummy. They made really nice Devonshire tea scones. In fact, they actually said the lady who was making the scones was like I don't know what they call it, like a trial member or something like that. So she was like, I don't think they were like
they weren't like hazing her
or like judging her if your scones are bad, you can't join or whatever. But she was like, oh, I'm really nervous. It's my first time making scones for a function. But they were really good.
The pressure was on, obviously.
So. And it was free. So I think they get, the CWA, they have applied for like grants from the City of Yarra Council to run various different workshops. And so, yeah, I guess basically it obviously wasn't free to run the workshop, but the cost of it was paid for by the council. So the actual attendees of the workshop was at no cost to us. So we were being taught to spin on just a drop spindle, and we actually got to keep the spindle and take it home. So it's an Ashford drop spindle that we got provided with. So my two tiny little FOs are my first attempts at handspun yarn. So this is a little skein of yarn that I spun, and this is the one that I did in the workshop. And then with the rest of my fibre, so we got to take home the fibre that we didn't use. Like each person was allocated, and I guess I could weigh these and figure out how much it was. I honestly don't know how much fibre it was. I estimate maybe it was like 25 grams or something like that. I'm not sure. So this was my second one here. So I think like there are obviously a lot of inconsistencies in the sort of thickness of the plies and stuff.
I think you can see even your second one.
I think you can see that my second one is more consistent.
More consistent.
More consistent. And I think honestly, even the one that is really inconsistent, I might just keep it as a souvenir, like just a little I think it looks very cute. Or I might actually use it in weaving, because I think some of these like very like thick and thin yarns can actually look really cool in weaving if you put them into the weft. Like they add quite a bit of texture to your work. So I will either use this in a weaving project, or I'll just kind of keep it as a fun little souvenir. To be honest, same with this. I just think they look very cute. Yeah, it was quite fun. So I'm looking forward to trying a little bit more spinning. And so they taught us the park and draft method, which is where you kind of add twist to the fibre, and then you hold the spindle between your legs, and then you kind of let go of your finger, and then so the twist then travels up into the fibre. So you don't have to draft at the same time as spinning, which I think maybe is a bit easier to learn, because it just seems like you kind of have to pay attention to like various different things at the same time, which maybe when you're learning is a little bit challenging.
It's a bit hard,
So that was my first FO. My second FO is kind of a joint FO with my mum, actually. So when I finished this jumper, I had, because Bendigo Woolen Mills, the yarn comes in 200 gram balls, so I had about 160 grams of yarn left over. So I actually used some of it to knit a Musselburgh hat, just all in the same colour with this yarn that I did. I think I did an adult extra large size, because like I'll just use all of it. I'll try and use as much as I can. And so I've already given that. A lady who comes to our knitting group at the library, she does quite a lot of work with a charity called Knit One Give One. So they take hand knitted items to distribute to people in need of sort of warm blankets and jumpers and beanies and all of that. But we still had about 60 grams left over. And I also had some leftover yarn from Bendigo Woolen Mills from my Sandro pullover. So I kind of like taught my mum, like I did the cast on and I did a few rounds of the increases, and then I taught her how to do. So my mum, like I guess because she's like quite an old school knitter, she really has only ever knit on straight needles. I don't think she knew how to do any kind of increases. The only decreases she knows how to do is knit two together. So I taught her like all the increases and the different decreases and stuff that are required, and kind of supervised her with the crown sections. And then when it was just the stockinette tube, she just kind of went to town. So we've done this green on the outside, and then on the other side, because the Musselburgh hat is kind of like a double layer, so we just basically, I think I had to wind off maybe 5 grams of this one, but we basically just made it so that we had exactly the same weight of both yarns, so that we would get, you know, a 50-50, half and half. So it's this side, and so you could wear it without the folded brim, and then it's just like a slightly slouchier hat. But if you do it this 50-50 way, I think this looks quite cool. You either get like this sort of white or cream coloured hat with a green brim, or you can get
the opposite.
A green hat.
You get like a contrasting
with a cream brim. So I think the Musselburgh, like, it's just a cool design that way. So yeah, and this one is also going to be a donation one. Our mum has kind of become slightly obsessed with
it's a good thing to be addicted
knitting.
to.
Yeah, actually some of the, like one of the whips that I'm currently working on is also like a DK weight jumper, and she just like picked up a ball of the yarn that I was using, and she was like, do you reckon this would be good for a beanie? And I was like, I'm probably not going to have any left, because that one I am actually kind of playing a bit of yarn chicken. So I was like, yeah, you can, happy for you to use my leftovers, but not happy for you to take yarn that is already in progress. Yeah.
That needs to be finished. Well, I brought some leftovers from a project that I did, you know, probably more than a year ago, that I had some like leftover, which is like a acrylic like baby yarn that will keep her busy for a little while. I think she'll be able to get a couple of baby beanies out of all of that.
So yeah, she seems to like just making beanies for donations now, which is good. So they're my FOs. That's all I have.
I have quite a few of sewing, so I'll just go through kind of one by one. So the first thing I have is I made this apron, which hold it up. So it's this kind of strawberry print. There's a pocket there, and then it's just got like some bias kind of binding around the edge, and then this sort of, I don't know what you call this, this kind of like, it's not webbing, but it's like this sort of like fabric tape kind of thing. I guess it's the straps. I didn't use a pattern for this one. I just traced around like an apron that I already had. Like I just kind of folded it in half and then laid it on the fold of the fabric. But the main thing I think that's cool about this fabric, this is actually fabric that I bought in Japan, and I think it's like the translation of the like label of it was laminated cotton. So it's like a printed cotton fabric that then is laminated with a layer of some kind of plastic, I guess, on top to make it waterproof. So I thought that would be quite good for an apron, that if you get like splashes of food or like oil or something on there, that it doesn't actually soak into the fabric, and then you can kind of just wipe it clean rather than having to wash the apron. I thought that would be quite handy. And I mean, someone can let me know, like I haven't really seen any fabric like this for sale in Australia anywhere. Like I imagine there probably are places you can get it from, but I am not sure where. I think there is, you can buy that, I think it's polyurethane laminate fabric that people use for like disposable nappies or diapers and that sort of thing. But I think that is different because that's usually like a print that then has the waterproof laminated coating on the back of the fabric. So I guess
that's not really, yeah, that's if you want, if the mess is going to be on the inside.
Yeah, so for something like a nappy or a diaper where the water or like mess is coming from inside, and you want the print to be on the outside of the diaper because that's what you can see. Whereas I guess something like that, I guess if you're using that to make an apron, like it would protect like spills and stuff from soaking through onto your clothes,
but it doesn't stop the apron from getting dirty.
Yes, yeah. So I think this was like a good option to use to use this fabric for, because I originally bought it thinking I could just make like a sort of like a tote bag, but then I think Anna suggested that it would be quite good, like quite sort of practical for an apron. I think the other thing that this would be quite good for, this kind of fabric, would be for making like a table, like a picnic tablecloth, or like
or like an art
tablecloth
for a kid.
Yeah, or like making like a little tablecloth for like a kid's, art table or something, that if they're doing, painting or whatever and making a huge mess, that you can just kind of wipe it clean rather than having to wash it. I guess people have like plastic tablecloths for that as well, but yeah, so that's my apron. But then I did actually have enough of the fabric to make a tote bag anyway, so I made one of these sort of like shopping bags. So it's just got I've got a pocket on one side, and I did some bias tape along the top, and then I also just did some bias tape around the top of the bag just to kind of match with the pocket, and then it's just got like a sort of like a red gingham kind of lining. So, and I just did the sort of like the kind of boxed bottom kind of construction for that. So that's that. And then got my matching apron and bag. Not that I wear an apron when I go to buy groceries. Yeah. But yeah, and so that basically has used up pretty much all of this fabric, I guess. So that's also, I guess, a good thing to like use up all of
that. You don't have really much remnants left. Yep.
Yeah. So then my next kind of sewing projects was also done with fabrics from Japan. I guess like I didn't want to start using my fabric from Japan like as soon as I started sewing, because it's obviously kind of special and like not easy to replace, that I didn't want to like start sewing straight away and then you make a horrible mistake and end up wasting fabric. But I felt like that I kind of gained enough kind of confidence to start doing some sewing projects. So one of the sort of types of fabric that I bought a bit of in Japan was this kind of pre-quilted fabric. So this one has a like Curious George, which is like a little cartoon monkey design on it. And so I used some of these pre-quilted fabrics to make some quilted project bags, like knitting project bags. I've made quite a few, and I might just if we just like insert like a photo of all of them, because I haven't got all of them here today to show, but I guess this was the first one that I made. And I think when I made the drawstring top here, that I kind of sewed the two pieces of the drawstring together and then kind of seamed them, so this seam allowance here was quite bulky, but then I guess like as I made more like that, I kind of just like refined it a little bit, and so I guess that's when you're, because I didn't really use a pattern for these. I was kind of just like figuring it out and looking at various tutorials and stuff like that, that you kind of refine things as you go. But like I'm still happy with this and it's perfectly usable. I think the other thing that I also learnt rather than doing the sort of the drawstring top like that and getting that bulky seam was also about the placement of the handles, because I think I originally was thinking where I would place the handles if this was just a tote bag. But then I guess you can see when you do the drawstring together that it pulls the handles in very close together, which is still like you can still use it, but they just kind of twist a little bit. So this is I've made probably about 5 of these by now, and I guess each time I just kind of learned something along the way. So this is probably the one that I would be sort of most happy with. That I think the drawstring I sewed in 2 separate parts, and that just means that this sort of seam allowance here there's not so much bulk
I think
all together.
Yeah, you can show a bit better that it's in 2 separate parts.
Yeah. So there is like a little bit of a gap here, but I think when you pull the drawstring closed, that it's fairly enclosed, and like I'm not sort of like tipping it upside down and, you know, shaking and stuff like that to make sure things don't fall out. I guess the purpose of the drawstring is really just to keep everything kind of clean and tidy. So yeah, that's probably one of the main sort of modifications that I did. And I also have kind of placed the handle, like where the handle connects to the bag, a bit further apart, so that when it's kind of cinched in with the drawstring, it's not kind of twisting up like what it was with the Curious George one. So this fabric is, I really like this fabric. It's kind of a bit sort of like witchy, that it's got these sort of purple flowers and then black cats. And then for the lining of the Curious George one, I just used like a sort of fairly basic blend of fabric from Spotlight. But for this one, actually this fabric came from Anna's stash, which is, I think, was it a Tula Pink print with these sort of like moons and clouds, which I think the colour like matches quite well with the
just the vibes,
pink and purple.
yeah.
And yeah, just the vibes that it's kind of, I guess, a bit sort of like, you know, spooky, like witchy Halloween kind of vibes of like black cats and then the moon. And so it's got just a one pocket inside, so that you could put some, like if you had like a little tin with notions or stitch markers and that sort of thing. The other thing that I don't know if people would be interested in, like a tutorial or anything like that, but I haven't really seen too much in like videos about how to do box bottom bags, but this technique that people use for making like makeup bags is when you do the boxed corners to actually nest the lining and the outer fabric together, because I don't know if you can really tell, but like the lining, it kind of like holds the lining in place, rather than I guess with some of the other bags that I've sewn where you sew the lining and the outer as 2 separate pieces, and then you seam them together,
just top stitch around it,
just around the top, so the lining at the bottom is not actually held in place. I think doing it this way, it's a bit more sort of finicky, and I wouldn't say it's like difficult, but like it's just a little bit more effort to do.
And you think just a better result.
But I think it gives like a neater finish of having the lining kind of held down in place. So I think I will probably be doing that sort of going forward for all of these sort of bags that I'm making. Yeah, like I think it's a little bit harder to do, and like then obviously when you're turning the bag inside out through that opening, like you do have to leave, especially with this quilted fabric, I guess, because it is kind of bulky, that you do have to leave a fairly decent opening. And then you could either top stitch that opening closed, because it will be like in the very bottom seam of the bag, or I just like hand stitched that closed to give a fairly sort of invisible kind of finish. Yeah, so that's the project bags that I've been working on. So I've made a couple. I think you're planning to make a couple, and then we've got some of this fabric I've got left over. So maybe making a couple to give like as gifts as well. Because yeah, this fabric that's, you know, obviously quite special and like fun, and yeah, so I want to like get as much use out of it that I can. And like even one of the ones that I made to give as a gift had sort of like a fairly decent sized rectangle left over, so I made like a little which I can include in the photo, I don't have it here today, like a little zippered pouch kind of thing, that could be like a little notions pouch, like to match with the project bag. So yeah, that's that. The next thing I have on my list, it just says baby stuff. So I'm not too sure like how many photos I have, but I can try and put together a little compilation of some photos. One of our close friends is having a baby due sort of at the end of October. So I think I mentioned in one of the previous episodes that I was going to try and sew a nappy bag. And So I have finished that, but I don't actually have it with me today because we saw them our friends yesterday. So I've actually gifted her the nappy bag, and so I ended up making a nappy bag, a nappy clutch, which was just sort of like a folding kind of organizer that has like a little pocket for some baby wipes, and then it has like a little zipper pocket for like, I guess like the like nappy cream and like hand sanitizer and things like that. And then I also made a couple of burp cloths and some muslin like cotton like swaddle wraps as well. So but all of that has been given to the mum to be already, so I don't have any to show, but I do I think I've got some photos, so whatever I've got photos of I can put on there. So yes, and then I think the last like sewing project that I wanted to show is a couple of tops that I've made. So this first one is the Hansie pattern from Seamwork, which is just like a fairly basic shell top. I don't know if you can really see. I just made it out of this fairly sort of lightweight. You can probably see it. It's almost like a bit sheer. Yeah, cheesecloth type, sort of like woven cotton type fabric. This top is quite big, which was because I did the printed home version of the pattern, and I didn't realize until I'd cut out my fabric that they give you like on the first page of the pattern there's like a square, and they say like when you print this out this square should measure like 2 by 2 inches, but like when I measured it I think it was like 2 1/4 inches, so I guess the settings on the printer were not right or something like that, so the pattern like the sizing was kind of off. It was still like a good sort of learning experience. Like I learned how to do like facings, so I guess that's like a new skill to kind of learn, and like how to do the sleeves and that sort of thing. So I think this top probably will just be sort of like a lightweight kind of like cover to, you know, throw on over bathers at the beach or something like that. Like I will definitely still get use out of it, but maybe it's just not quite what I originally envisaged, but that's fine. I think I would probably try and make the pattern again, but just maybe get it printed like somewhere professionally so that it gets printed in the proper
proper size. People who make that pattern, are they based in the US or
yes.
Australia? Because I think in the US they don't use A4, like that's not a standard paper size.
Yeah,
so
they didn't have like, there was like it was called like Print at Home A4.
Oh, okay.
But okay. I guess maybe, I mean, I printed at work and like I didn't want to like mess around with the settings of the printer at work, so I don't know. Anyways, I think you can take stuff to Officeworks, which is just like an office supply shop in Australia, and you can get things printed to A0. And I've actually read quite a lot of reviews of like the printing service at Officeworks, and it seems to get good reviews from people who use it for printing sewing patterns. And I think it costs maybe about $6 per sheet. So I guess like that's an additional cost if you're buying a PDF pattern and then also have to pay to get it printed. But on the flip side, that like sticking all the sheets of paper together and cutting it out took forever as well. So yeah. I guess like your time is also worth something. Yeah. Yes. Yeah. So I think I would like to make that again. I also was thinking that because it's a fairly sort of like simple kind of light summer blouse, that might be something that would be a nice gift to make for our mum as well. So yeah, but I might have another go at making the right size for myself once I sort of get the pattern properly printed. And the other two tops I have are kind of like the same kind of style as each other, but two tops that I had to go at kind of like self-drafting from a top that I already owned. So this is just kind of like a sort of blousey type top with little ties at the front and like little gathered sort of, I guess you'll call that kind of like I don't know what kind of waist. This is like kind of like a frill sort of waist.
Yeah, because it's not really peplum, is it? No.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know. I just sort of like trace this kind of based off a top that I already had. So this one is kind of like a fairly lightweight, like crinkly sort of cotton fabric.
It's seersucker, is it? Yeah.
What's this little bit of thread there? I don't know if it's seersucker or... But yeah, so I'm fairly happy with this. I did have to redo some of this because I think I made the shoulders too high. So then it was sort of like billowing out like a lot of extra fabric in the top. But I sort of unpicked the sleeve and redid that. And so I think I'm kind of happy with how it fits now. And then the other one, I made a similar one, but this fabric is more like a rayon kind of material. So I guess this one has a bit more drape to it. So like it just sits quite differently, I guess, because of the cotton fabric is kind of a bit more of a stiff
Where did you
kind
get
of material.
that fabric from?
I think this one, the purpley one was from Spotlight.
Yeah.
And this one is from, I think, Darn Cheap Fabrics in on Smith Street in Collingwood. So yeah, but I'll put some photos of me wearing them. It's just a bit cold to try these on today. So I can put some photos of these. So I think these, like, I guess it was just like the first time that I had tried sort of self-drafting patterns, or like self-drafting clothing from just like another piece of clothing that I already owned. And yeah, like I think I took the purple one to my sewing class to like get some help from the sewing teacher about how to fix the shoulders when they were too high. And she said, you know, like making your own patterns can be fun, and like that you can sort of like make up your own thing. Like if you can't find a pattern that's exactly what you want, you can kind of just make it up as you go along. But she did say, you know, it can be a lot of trial and error, and you just have to be patient. And I guess also that you have to be somewhat prepared to accept that it may not work out how you envisage.
Yeah, well, I think that's just part of learning something. I mean, like, for example, with like when I was doing the spinning workshop, I think if someone next to me was asking about, you know, the bits that are really thick and thin, they were like, oh, how do I stop this from happening, kind of thing. And the teacher was kind of like, you just accept that it's part of learning to spin.
Yes.
That this is just... in the beginning, you will not be able to draft consistently.
Yes. Yeah. So I mean, I think from this experience, and like this, neither of these fabrics were very expensive. I think this round one was maybe about $10 a meter, and the purple one I think was actually like a clearance one from Spotlight that I think I paid maybe about $6 for the whole piece of fabric. So like, not the end of the world if things, you know, went completely horribly wrong, and you ended up with something that you just could not wear. That yeah, I probably would be not inclined to do that sort of self-drafting kind of thing with, you know, fabric that costs $30 a meter or something like that. Or I suppose at least you would try it try the design first on a more affordable.
Well, I think
fabric.
I've seen quite a few people do. I guess they call it like sort of like almost like a wearable toile. Like they won't actually use like calico, but they'll just use a cheaper fabric.
Yes.
So if it does work out, great. I have another version of this. But if it doesn't, then it's, you know, it's not my really expensive fabric that you
can't get any more of, or you know, maybe some vintage fabric or something like that you can't get more of. So but yeah, that's all of my FOs, I think.
Okay, so I think we will be moving into our whips.
All right, so now it's time for our second segment, which is called Whip It Good. WIP being WIP, an acronym meaning work in progress. So this is where we talk about any projects that we've currently got on the go. I think because I have just finished, like I literally sewed in the ends of this last night. So I've literally just finished. I actually don't have any current works in progress because I haven't made a start on any
and I
new
suppose it's like sewing,
projects.
a lot of your sewing works in progress. It's like a work in progress for a few hours and then you finish it.
Yes, yeah, that it's not really like on the go for, you know, weeks at a time. So so I actually don't have any whips at the moment, which I guess could be considered a good thing.
Yeah. All right, I have many whips, but I have just 3 that I'll be talking about today, and they are 2 knitting and 1 crochet actually. So the first one is a hoe, a half finished object. So this is a sock that I test knit for Ali from the Fibrebound podcast. I believe this is her first pattern, like design that she's released, and it's actually now been released on Ravelry already, so I think it's already available. So this is called the Siroto sock, and I'll just hold it a little bit closer. So you can see it has sort of like a texture on the leg and the foot, and then just sort of like a standard heel flap and gusset, and just some 2x2 ribbing. This wasn't necessarily part of the pattern, but I just did 3 rounds in a contrasting colour just for a bit of fun. And so the colours that I have used, the pink is a leftover that I had from Hodgepodge Skeins, and the colourway is called Pink Funk. And the main colour, I decided because Ali's from Adelaide, I would try and use an Adelaide-based dyer. So this yarn is from Sian's Yarns, and the colourway is called Birthday Cake. And I actually did purchase this at Fibre Feast when we went to Adelaide earlier this year. So that is what I've got for my first sock. And my second sock...
So we just dropped our little notebook.
The second sock, I finished the cuff and just started on the leg. So haven't done all that much on this one, but... so I think that this is, like, I would call this, like, this type of sock in my head, I call it, like, not quite vanilla. Like, it is textured, but I think it still can work with a variegated or speckled yarn that they're not kind of, like, competing with each other.
This is quite an apt yarn to use as well, because, like birthday cake, like this kind of funfetti cake is like vanilla cake but with sprinkles added.
Yeah.
So it's like a vanilla cake but a vanilla sock but with sprinkles.
That is very true. But I think, like, if you look at Ali's Instagram post about it, you will see how, like, it does look maybe slightly different when it's worked up in just like a solid colour. So yeah, I would encourage anyone who is interested in the pattern to check out her Instagram or just like the Ravelry page as well. So that is the Seroto sock, which I'm testing for, or was testing for, Ali from Fibrebound. My second whip is my crochet whip, and this is actually a baby gift for the same baby as the nappy bag. But I need to get my skates on if I am to gift it by the time baby is born. So I did actually print the pattern just because there's so many different components to this that I thought having a printed copy would just be easier. So this is the Baby Rainbow Sampler Blanket 2 by Kirsten Ballering, who her website is called Hark Ma Raak. So she's Dutch, but the pattern is in English. And I think you can get the pattern as a free pattern on her website. But if you want it all as one PDF to print, then it is a paid for pattern. But I just thought it was worthwhile. And, like, I won't show you, like, in too close of a detail, but I'll show you if I can find, so it like, in addition to the actual pattern, it works through, like, it won't just be, like, do 2 rows of puff stitch. It actually has, like, a photo tutorial of all the different stitches that are used. And then it has the actual, like, pattern itself, and then also so it has the pattern in written instructions and also charts if you prefer to work off charts. And basically, I guess the gist of it is that each you use a sort of I mean, you can use any colors you want, but the way she's done it is use white, and then for the colors, like, there's some kind of textured stitch in each color, and then there's a little bit of white between each one. And so, yeah, I'll show you what I've done so far. She recommends in the pattern to use Shepier's Katona, which I am, but I'm not using the exact colours that that are in the pattern. I'm just using, like, colours of Katona, because I have quite a bit of Katona in stash because I like using it for amigurumis and things like that. And I actually did make the first version of this blanket for my nephew. So the first version of this blanket is sort of same concept, like, textured stripes in different colours, but obviously these ones are just slightly different textures and in a different order. So this is kind of what I've done so far. So I will, I guess, roll it past the camera.
Sorry, I thought you were about to dip the ends of it in my cup of tea.
Oh,
no, it didn't come
somewhat
close,
slowly. So I am doing, like, I think in hers she kind of does the rainbow more or less in order. I decided I'm going to use kind of like the colours of the rainbow, but I'm not necessarily doing like a sort of Roy G. Biv
rainbow
order.
Yeah. Okay.
And for most colours, for most of the sections, you want like basically a darker version and a lighter version of the same colour. So you can see this red, I've got like a lighter red and darker red, a darker green, a lighter green. Here I've done a lighter blue, and then there'll be a more sort of like electric blue kind of colour to complement the blue. I think it was just this section here that's called a Jacob's Ladder that you needed 3, but I think all the rest of them you only need 2. So yeah, that's as far as I've got. So I think I've done maybe like 15% or something like that, and then you finish the whole thing with just a white
plain border
around the edge. So yeah, that is I think this is an enjoyable way to like learn new stitches. And her instructions, I think, and her photo tutorials and stuff, I have found them to be quite helpful. So yeah, I think that I wouldn't do it as like a first crochet project, but if you were fairly new to crochet, I wouldn't be too put off. Like, I think it is an achievable project for an adventurous beginner. And I think the only change I've made, apart from like just doing the colours that I want, is I'm using a 3mm hook instead of a 3.5mm hook. And then my last whip, I was thinking whether I should put it on, but maybe not. It's probably not required. This is another test knit that I'm doing. So this is called the Finch Sweater, and the designer is, her designer name is called Dal Baudray. I don't know how to pronounce that exactly properly. She's from South Korea, and that actually means soft and sweet. I wrote that down in Korean, and her name is Soo Min Ah. So this is an all over half fisherman's rib sweater. And I guess it's interesting for me. I haven't knit a sweater in this construction before. The whole thing's knit flat apart from the neckband. So you knit the back panel, then you pick up for the shoulders, like do one shoulder, then the other one, connect at the neck, and then knit the rest of the, which is, I think, not that abnormal for a sweater that's knit flat. But then the sleeves are also completely knit flat, but they're joined to the body. So you pick up, so this is actually a sleeve, so you pick up along the shoulder, and then
so this will then
you knit the
eventually
sleeve,
be seamed like that.
And then so you actually seam like from the wrist to, I don't know if you can see there, I will seam that whole thing with mattress stitch. And the reason for doing the construction that way is because with half fisherman's rib, if you knit it flat, you actually have less purling to do than if you knit it in the round. So that's why the whole thing is knit flat. So I'm really enjoying it. It makes it, I've never knit half fisherman's rib before. It's a very like sort of squishy texture. And the yarn that I'm using is this one that I got from Maker. So it's called Chaska Wara DK. And it is, I don't know if you'll be able to see, but it is one of those like blown yarns. So it's like a fibre filled net, I think. So the composition is 42% baby alpaca, 8% merino wool, and 50% Pima cotton. So I think that the
like the tube
is cotton, and then it's the alpaca fibres. I mean, maybe if I just show you on the back of my hand here, you might be able to see a little bit better. The alpaca fibre and merino fibre is kind of blown into the tube. And I think I have heard that with those kind of blown yarns, you don't want to knit them at a super tight gauge, because then I guess the tube just kind of gets crushed and you can't really see the effect. So I think the gauge that this is knit at, you can actually see that effect quite nicely. So I have knit the front and back, and I'm probably about 3/4 of the way through the first sleeve. I've got one more decrease to do on the sleeves, and then just need to knit to the length that it suits me, I guess. So that is coming along quite well. Enjoying it. The only modification, so I'm knitting a size 5 of this. The only modification that I've done is I'm using a 3.5mm instead of a 4mm, but that is normal for me for DK weight yarn to size down to a 3.5mm. So I think that is, these are the whips that are getting my attention at the moment. So all of my other whips are kind of paused while I, finish this test knit, and finish, I guess this, not a test knit, but
you do have somewhat of a deadline.
The deadline is the baby. Although if it's not, ready exactly when baby's born, I think that's probably okay.
But I feel like it's probably good to aim to do it before the baby arrives, because I think if you don't get it finished before the baby arrives, then it's kind of like pressure's off that you might then
just not much
be like,
deadline,
it's late anyway, so it doesn't matter if it's a week late or a month late or 6 months late or something.
Very true. That is true.
So you don't want time to get away from you.
Very, very true. So they are my whips. So I think we will go into our last section. Yep. All right, so now we've come to our last section, which we call dream weaving, and this is where we share any future plans, sometimes acquisitions, but lately I've been putting my acquisitions in my crafty moments vlog. Yeah. So anything that I did buy a couple of things when I went to Bendigo, but they'll be in my July crafty moments vlog. So if you're interested in what I purchased in Bendigo, you can I guess find that there. Do you want to go first? Or?
Yeah, sure. I just have a few little things. So firstly, I do actually have some of that PUL polyurethane laminate fabric that I was talking about before when I was showing the apron. I have actually purchased some of that, and it's just in like a little sort of like forest animal type print. And so this I purchased to make a changing mat as like a baby gift for our friend. I bought this at a D-stash market, I guess, because our friends, they did express like a preference to have as little kind of synthetic fibres as possible. So I did, cotton and cotton linen fabrics for all of the other things that I've made, but specifically for a changing mat, I did ask them like, would this synthetic fabric be okay? Because I think like you probably can't really have something that's waterproof without synthetic. I mean, I guess you could use like waxed cotton or like sort of oil skin type thing, but like I just don't know where you would buy that kind of fabric from, and I don't know if it's maybe not super practical for like baby stuff, but they did say for this, because this was secondhand, that they said that would be okay for them. So yeah, so I'm going to try and make I have like quite a bit of it, so I might even be able to get 2 changing mats out of it, just so they can have a spare one, if one gets dirty, that it can go in the wash kind of thing. So that will be probably, I mean, I'm not saying it's the last thing I'll ever make for them, but like probably this will be the last of the sort of like baby shower type gifts. So yeah, that's that. I haven't sewn with that type of fabric before, so I mean, and there are sort of like a few little bits, like this is obviously being used for something else, that there's like little small bits, so I guess I can just snip off this kind of little corner thing and probably just do a bit of practice sewing on that type of fabric to see how it goes. And then I have made a little gauge swatch for a pattern for like just like a summer t-shirt, and so this is using the Fiddlesticks cedar yarn, which is a cotton bamboo blend, which if you've seen some of our previous episodes, when I made the Maybe Lily tank top and the Heart on Fire, I used that same yarn in a different colorways, but the same yarn, because I really like the sort of feel of it and the drape, so I think it's quite a nice one for summer tops. So this is a gauge swatch for a pattern called the Lavender Tea. I cannot remember the name of the designer, but we can put a link in the description to the pattern on Ravelry. At the moment, the pattern is only available in Spanish, so I do have my personal translator here, but I think they said the English version of the pattern is being released in about 3 weeks' time, so I'm kind of leaning towards perhaps I should just, seeing as it's very...
I mean, I'm happy to help you.
It's not that far away. I mean, I could cast on and see how I go, but whether I should just wait until the pattern comes out in English. But so that will be like a summer kind of top as my next sort of knitting project. And the other sort of dream weaving thing for kind of like future plans in the sort of very near future that I have is for our nephew. So for this Curious George project bag that I made, because this sort of fabric with this little sort of monkey with the cute little sayings, like as one of the bits says, George promised to be good, but little monkeys sometimes forget. Like, it's quite cute for like a little kid, I think. Like encouraging them to be a bit naughty.
They always forget.
Or like, or like have fun or stay curious, or curious little monkey, that kind of stuff, would be quite cute for a kid. And I do have some of this fabric left over, so I was thinking to try and make like maybe a little backpack for him. And so I have looked up a few different tutorials about like making like a kid's backpack. The one that I thought probably would be the best, the construction of it is sort of it's kind of like a bag, I guess, similar to this, that has sort of like elasticated around the top, and then there's just like a flap that comes over with a magnetic button closure. That I thought that might be, because he's 2.5, so that might be a bit easier for him than something that has a zip. So that will be kind of the next thing that I want to work on. I have ordered some of those little I don't know, like the hardware, like the little slider things that you put on that go on like bag straps to make them adjustable. So I've ordered some of those. So once those arrive, I will have a go at making that. I think I won't have enough fabric to do the whole backpack in that fabric, but I guess the sort of panel that's kind of against the back doesn't really need to be sort of like a print. So I can probably use something plain for that, and maybe like the bottom panel of it. So maybe just the flap, the main sort of body of the bag, and then there's like 2 kind of side pockets as well, to do those in the print. Or even if I just did the flap, because that's kind of the main bit that you see when the backpack is closed, and maybe the side pockets in the print, and then the body of it to do in just sort of like a plain fabric. I think that would look okay as well. So I'll see how much fabric I've got left. I might as well use all of it to use it up. But yeah, so that would be, and I think, I've the little hardware things that I ordered are like on the way. I think they're, hopefully arriving in the next week or so. That I think that would be a realistic thing to aim to have done as maybe like a Christmas present for him. Yeah.
Cool. I just have one dream weaving, which is another test knit that I'm going to start, which is for the Days Eyes, or I guess it sounds like Daisy socks, and I don't know if you can see, but basically they're just socks that have some eyelets, and then you do some embroidery to make these daisies, and the designer is Jess Thompson. I've tested a couple of her sock patterns before, and I like testing for her. So I'm planning to use this sock set that I actually got at Bendigo from Owl of Athena. So it's on her Romulus sock base. So that's an 80/20 superwash merino nylon. And it's a 2-ply, so it's a little bit more plump. And the colours are Mustard Perspective, which is obviously this one, and then Diary Flower. I just thought it kind of looks a bit sort of like vintage 70s kind of, which I thought went well with the daisies.
It does have that kind of colour vibe.
Yes, so that is my dream weaving, is just to actually cast on those that test knit. So yeah, I think that's basically it for our episode. So thank you for watching.
It's probably been a bit of a long one, but I guess because it's been a while since our previous one, we had quite a lot of things to show.
Yes, and so all of the patterns or tutorials, designers, any of that kind of information, we always put it in the description box. So if we forgot to mention something, or if you just didn't quite catch what we said, that will always be in the description box underneath, any relevant information. If you did like the video, it very much helps our channel if you just give it a thumbs up. It's just like a free way to let YouTube know that you liked our video, and it will get shared with more fibre arts enthusiasts. And if you're not yet subscribed to our channel and you did enjoy the video, we would love to have you as a subscriber on our channel. We do always love reading comments from people who've watched the video, and we do our very best to respond to all the comments. And we should actually say as well, thank you very much. We got on the last podcast episode, because that was where Pia shared that Susie had passed away. Yes, thank you very much.
We do appreciate everyone who left very sort of kind and supportive comments about Susie. That was very, very nice to read all of those.
But yeah, so hopefully you have enjoyed today's episode, and hopefully we will see you in a future video at some time. And until next time, we'll wish you all happy stitching. Bye.